Right, so on this second one, I'm going to teach you some slightly more advanced data skills. So I'm over on the next tab. I've got same countries, same data. Just for completeness, let's format these cells to the same as before. So I have 3 decimal places on the HDIs and 1 decimal place on populations. Right, ready to go. So how to insert columns or rows, add new things in. So imagine I wanted to add another column for, let's say, literacy rates in the middle. I'd highlight one of the columns. I'd highlight the column to the right of where I wanted the column to go in. I'd right click and I would click insert. That inserts another one in here, and I could put in literacy rates, for example, in there. If I want to get rid of it, click at the top to highlight the whole thing, right click, delete. If I want to add 2 columns in, just highlight 2 columns and insert, and it will mirror those. So get rid of those. Ditto if you wanted to do the same for inserting rows, so just right click, insert a row. So I wanted Argentina, and I want to put in Argentina's data. I don't for the purpose of this, so let's get rid of that. Oops, let's try actually deleting this. And same as before, if you want 20 new rows, highlight 20 rows, insert, there's 20 new spaces. Control Z, undo. Let's get rid of those. Right, next up, let's think about how you sort data. So at the moment I've got this random list of countries with no particular order. Let's imagine, to start with, nice and easy, I wanted to do them alphabetically. So just highlight your data, all of them, go sort filter, sort A to Z. And it's now changed them all around, so it's Armenia down to the USA. There's also a Z to A, but I'm going to leave them for the moment alphabetically. But that doesn't do particularly much use for my analysis. Maybe let's say I wanted them instead, I wanted them done by GDP per capita, from the richest to the poorest. So highlight the whole lot, go up top, this time go to custom sort, and then in here you want to do sort by, and it has picked up the labels that you had at the top of your data. So if you click the drop down, we've got country, GDP per capita, HDR, population. Well, I want to sort them by GDP per capita, and let's say I want them the biggest to the smallest. And now it's ranked all of these with Iceland at the top, and all the GDP per capita is ranked with Ethiopia's $700 per person per year at the bottom. I am going to do the same thing now for population. So highlight the whole thing, sort, custom sort, drop down, population, and let's say I wanted the population from the smallest to the largest. Now I've got Little Iceland still at the top, but massive India down the bottom. Right, so we know how to sort data. So now to do some conditional formatting. So conditional formatting basically is going to format the cell that the text is in based on whatever you want, like a set of criteria. So let's say, for example, I wanted to highlight any country that had a GDP per capita of over $20,000. So what would I do? I would highlight the data that I wanted to conditionally format, go up here, conditional formatting, and I said I wanted a greater than, so highlight cell rules, I want greater than, and I want anything that's greater than, I said 20,000, and you can pick different options for what you want. I'm going to go for a green fill. You can mess around and customize what you want, but I'm going to go green fill, dark green text, on the basis that a high GDP per capita in terms of development is a good thing, and green often indicates something that is positive or good. So let's do an OK with that. And let's say I also want to highlight those at the lowest. So let's highlight this again. I put more conditional formatting on. I'm going to highlight this time less than, and let's go less than 5,000. But this time I'm going to do it the red one, because the red indicates something that's low or not so good. let's click OK. So now I've conditionally formatted my cells, and if I worked out later on that perhaps I put some data in wrong, this hasn't sort of coloured those cells forever. Let's imagine Papua New Guinea's GDP actually was 20,000 per person. It wasn't. If we change the data in there, it will automatically change the cells. Let's get Papua New Guinea back to it's $2,000 per person. So let's do the same thing for HDI. And I'm going to highlight the HDI. I'm going to conditionally format. Let's do anything that's greater than 0.85, perhaps. Let's say is green. And still the same lot. Let's conditionally format anything that's less than, let's see, 0.6. We'll put that as red. Voila. So now I've got some clear indicators about where it appears low, and Ethiopia and Papua New Guinea have 2 reds down the bottom on both indicators, and there's 4 countries with 2 greens. So there's other things you can do in the conditional formatting, and have a look and have a play with all of these, but some other things you can have things like data bars. So if I add a data bar for this slot, I've got the population one highlighted. I'm going to add a blue data bar for those, and you can see now that I've got a little indicator behind of the population size. Here's India's bars all the way at the top with 1.3 billion. There's the USA's 300 million odd population. In the next one, going all the way down to bars you can't see right at the top. But all kinds of things. Have a look and have a play with some of these. You can add icons, colour scales, data bars. You can have options that look at the top number of items or the bottom number of items, or those that are above or below averages, or all kinds of things. Right. Next up, we're going to have a look at the if and the countif functions. So let's do the if one first. So the if function is going to look at a particular argument that you have, and if it is true, then it will do something for you. So let's take an example here. I'm going to say that, and I'm not saying geographically this is great, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to say if the value of the GDP per capita of a country is above $20,000, we're going to call it a rich country. So equals if, in fact let's get the magnifier open for a second. Magnifier. So again, this is just a zoom in of wherever my mouse is so that you can see more clearly when I'm typing things into these boxes. So our equation for an if function equals if, open brackets, then I want to click on my cell. So if this cell here is greater than 20,000, that's what I'm looking at. If the cell is bigger than a specific value, comma, then I'm going to put the value that's going to appear in my cell if this is true. So I said I wanted it to be rich, so in quotes, rich, oops, end quotes, okay, it's whatever's in between your quotes, remember your quotes, and then comma, and then the value if it's not true. So I'm going to put in quotes poor, close brackets. So if B3 is bigger than 20,000, comma, open brackets rich, close brackets, comma, open brackets poor, close brackets, and you'll see that it's written the word rich in there because Iceland had 59,000 GDP, which is bigger than 20. So I don't want to type that in for every single one, so as we did in the previous one, I'm going to grab the little green box down the bottom and I'm just going to pull that all the way down, and this has now labelled the fact that Armenia is poor, Papua New Guinea is poor, all the way down to Spain is rich, etc. Now I don't like that geographically, I don't like that binary division between rich and poor, so imagine that I wanted to get rid of the word poor and change the word rich. So I'm just going to go back into this box here, and I think, right, I didn't like that word rich. I'm just going to put this as wealthy country instead. Remember, in my brackets. And if it wasn't a wealthy country, I just didn't even want to label it. So I can just put 2 brackets with nothing in, and that means it will respond with something that's blank. So if I press enter, I've now got this one done for my first cell, but I do need to copy it down and do the rest, so I'll just drag this one down. And now I've got my 4 countries that are flagged as being wealthy countries, and nothing returned in the places where countries didn't fulfill that criteria of being more than $20,000. So that's the if function. Let's do the countif function now. So the countif function is going to count all the cells that fulfill a particular criteria. So I'm going to do a countif down here now for, can I count the number of wealthy countries that I have? The up into the formula bar, and I'll go equals countif, open brackets. Then I'm going to put the range of data cells, the array that I want to search. So I've got E3 down to E13. I want to look within those cells, and I'm looking for the phrase wealthy country. Okay, so countif E3 colon E13 comma open brackets wealthy country close brackets at the end. And when I press enter, that obviously changes, obviously adds up to 4. You can see there are 4 countries above. And again, if one of these magically becomes wealthy, let's put Papua New Guinea's suddenly found $18,000 per person. If I change this one in here, I should see when I move my mouse in a second that this will become a wealthy country and this one will go to 5. So let's click out, becomes a wealthy country, adds it up to 5. Right, let's get rid of it. So let's try a slightly different countif. So that was countif where I was looking for a specific phrase. In this case, I was looking for the phrase wealthy country. This time I want to do a countif where I'm looking for values that are larger than a particular number. So let's do that in here, and let's just say for the purposes of this I want to count how many countries have more than $10,000 per person. So in this box, into the formula bar, equals countif open brackets, then the range, so B3 through to B13. So that's my range that I want to look for, comma, and then I want is greater than 10,000. So I've got in here countif B3 colon B13 comma, open up my open quotes, greater than 10,000 end quotes, close brackets. So what it's done in here is it's looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries in here. We've all got values bigger than 10,000. So let's try doing that on this one, but for HDIs that are less than 0.7 equals, look up there, so equals countif, then my range, C3 colon C13, comma, quotes, so we're going for, what do we say, we're going for less than 0.7. Quotes, close brackets, bingo. So 4 countries, Papua New Guinea, Bolivia, Ethiopia, and India. Now you might say that's a complicated way of something that you could scan your eyes over very quickly, but had you got a monstrously big data set, or all 200 of the world's countries, this suddenly becomes a lot quicker. So hopefully from this second video you've learned how to insert and delete columns and rows. You could sort data, rank them A to Z, highest to lowest. You could conditionally format cells. You could colour them in based on certain criteria. You could add little bars in the background, and you could now do both the if and the countif functions.